ISNM analysis. This is also called the general equilibrium analysis. Now, what is the difference between general equilibrium analysis and the partial equilibrium analysis? Partial equilibrium discusses only one market. General equilibrium discusses two or multiple markets simultaneously. Now, what are the two markets discussed in this analysis? Of course, IS and LM. What does IS represent? It represents the goods market. LM represents the money market. As we previously discussed, there were two major economic policies that the government had. They were the monetary policy and the fiscal policy. We knew that it was applying the monetary policy by controlling the money supply in the economy via the RBI. So we know that the government exercises its monetary policy through the money market and thus affects the LM curve. The fiscal policy is exercised by the goods market and the IS curve. There is a common link between these two markets, and that is the interest rate. Let us discuss this further. When we discussed the Keynesian consumption function or the Keynesian economics, we saw that he took investment to be a fixed function where I was equal to I bar. But now we see that investment is a decreasing function of interest rate, because interest rate is now taken as the cost of investment. So as our cost of investment will go up, as interest rate will go up, we will invest less. So there is a inverse relationship between this interest rate and investment, because interest rate is the cost of investment. Interest rate is a monetary concept, and how we will come at the equilibrium interest rate or how it will be determined? It will be determined by the point of intersection between the demand for money and the supply of money. That is how we will be deriving the interest rate. This basic analysis of IS and LM was initially given by Sir John Flick, but it was mathematically or algebraically derived later on by Henson. Let's first discuss the IS model. Now we know that investment is not a fixed function. It is not only autonomous. It is a functional form. So investment becomes I bar minus BI. Here, what does B represent? It represents the responsiveness of investment to the change in interest rates. B represents the responsiveness of investment to the change in interest rate. Here, because we have converted investment into a functional form, it has become endogenous. What are endogenous variables? Variables that are a part of the model. What are exogenous variables? Variables that are outside the model. So investment spending has become an endogenous variable. Now let us plot this. Plot the investment curve. We know, we have already established that when interest rate rises, the investment falls, and when the interest rate falls, the investment rises. So we know that there is a negative or an inverse relationship between these two. An inverse relationship is always shown by a downward sloping graph. You are correct. So here we take investment on the x-axis and interest rate on the y-axis. Now to understand the role of this B, the responsiveness, I am going to take two graphs. So let this be a more flatter graph and let this be a little steeper one. I am going to take the flatter one as I1 and the steeper one as I2. To understand the change, let me take this initial investment as interest rate as I1, which gives me this level of investment I1. Now let us suppose that the interest rate falls. Let us suppose the interest rate falls to I2. Now when the interest rate falls to I2, we can see its impact on both the curves, I2 and I3 respectively. So on the steeper graph, steeper curve, we can see that the change or the response of the investment to this change in fall or in interest rate is lesser, whereas in the flatter graph it is more, the responsiveness is high. So what can I say? When B is large, the curve is relatively flatter, whereas when B is small, or the responsiveness in the investment is small, I can say that the curve is steeper, right? Now let us derive the slope of this curve as well. Slope of IS. So I know that the equation of IS is equal to I bar minus BI. We know that the equational form of a slope is given by y is equal to mx plus c, where m is the slope, y is the y-intercept, x is the x-intercept and c is the constant. Now without using much mathematics, I am going to find out the slope of the IS curve just by converting this curve in this format. How can I do that? I need the y-intercept. What is the y-intercept? Interest rate. So from this equation, let us take out the interest rate. It becomes bi is equal to I bar minus I. Again, I need to single out this interest rate, so I will divide b. Here it becomes I bar by b minus I by b. So now compare this equation with the equational form. This is the y-intercept. What is the x-intercept? X-intercept is investment, which is this. What is the coefficient of this I? It is minus 1 by b. This is the slope of the IS equation, where minus sign shows nothing but a negative relationship between the interest rate and the investment. तो भी रिकॉर्ड करा बस उसे. Now let's do the graphical derivation of IS curve. Now we will be deriving the IS curve graphically. Here I have the ADAS curve. We've all done this before. So this 45-degree line represents the AS curve or Y, right? And then I have an AD curve. AD, as we all know, is C plus I. My investment curve here, where I have I here and interest rate here. Suppose this is my initial interest rate I1 and the investment is I1. So this I1 I have taken here and I have gotten this equilibrium point. So let me bring down this point from here and let me bring down this point from here, and it comes and joins at this point. Now because I am bringing this variable down here, so this axis should be y, and since I am bringing the interest rate from here to here, so this axis should represent interest rate. Now let us suppose that the interest rate falls. Interest rate say falls to this point, I2. Interest rate has fallen. Now when the interest rate falls, what happens? We know that the investment goes up. As you can see, investment has gone up. It has increased to I2. Now when the investment has gone up, the AD curve will also shift upwards. This is AD is equal to C plus I2 plus G. This is the new investment that we got from here. Now let me bring down this point here and let me bring down the equilibrium. This was E1, this is E2, the new equilibrium. When I join these 2 points, I get this point. I can continue this process with different levels of interest rate and investments, and what do I get? Again, I get a downward sloping curve, which is the IS curve. It is a point showing different levels of combinations between the interest rate and income, where the goods market is in equilibrium. Can you see that the goods market is in equilibrium? At both these points that I have just joined, point 1 and point 2, were corresponding to the equilibrium points of the goods market. Goods market is represented by the ADAS and the goods market is in equilibrium. So combinations of interest rate and income where the goods market is in equilibrium is called the IS curve. Now let us mathematically derive the IS curve. We know that IS curve is showing the equilibrium in the goods market. Now what is the starting point of the equilibrium in the goods market? It is Y is equal to AD. This is our equilibrium in the goods. Now what is Y? It is AS. So AS is equal to AD or Y is equal to AD is the equilibrium in the goods market. Now we know that AD is equal to C plus I plus G. We are not taking the external sector here, I am taking the 3-sector economy, C plus I plus G. Now C can be written as C bar plus C by D, which is disposable income. Autonomous consumption, then the consumption with the disposable income. Now investment curve. We just derived the investment equation, which was I is equal to I bar minus Bi, and let G be again to be constant. Now to represent anything to be constant, we take a bar on top. Now let us open this disposable income. What is disposable income? It is the income minus the taxes Ty minus T bar plus the transfers plus I bar minus Vi plus G bar, right? So now what we do? We open this with the C. So it is C bar plus small c to y minus small c small dy minus small c t bar plus small c tr bar plus I bar minus Vi plus G. Now, what do? We take all the y terms on this side. Here we have y. So we bring all the y terms on this side. So we have y plus this term, small c, small t, y, and we have this term which is minus cy. And here we are left with c bar minus ct bar plus c tr bar plus I bar minus Vi plus G. So what do? We take y common from here. We are left with 1 minus c plus ct, and here we take all the autonomous terms and combine it into one term calling a bar. So this is an autonomous term, all these autonomous terms, a bar minus Bi. This is what we get. So this becomes, what is this? If you remember, multiplier, this is nothing but, so 1 upon this is the formula for alpha g. So this becomes y equal to a bar by 1 minus c plus ct minus Bi upon 1 minus c plus ct. Till here, are we clear? After this, we call this as, so 1 upon this is what? I have just told you, 1 upon 1 minus c plus ct is nothing but alpha g. So I can write it as y is equal to a bar into alpha g minus alpha g into Bi. Till here, are we clear? Y is equal to a bar into 1 upon this becomes alpha g minus Bi, 1 upon this becomes alpha g. Now we know that for the IS equation I need to single out I. So what I can do? I am rewriting this equation here. Y is equal to a bar alpha g minus alpha g Bi. So I take this on this side. Alpha g Bi is equal to a bar alpha g minus 1. To bring out Bi, it goes a bar alpha g से alpha g कट हो जाएगा minus y by alpha g. Okay. Now I need to single out interest rate from this I. It becomes a bar by b minus y b into alpha g. Now if you remember, the IS curve was a downward sloping curve between y and I. So you know that this anything with this would become the slope. So what is the slope according to this? This is a bar by b is my constant. Now I am talking about the slope of the IS. Previously we have discussed the slope of investment curve. Now we are talking about slope of IS. Again I am using that format. Y is equal to mx plus c. Again the same. So y in this case is I, and x in this case is y. So the coefficient of y here will be the slope of IS, which is 1 upon minus 1 upon b into alpha g. This is the slope of the IS curve. So this is how we derive the IS equation. This is my IS equation, and this is the slope of the IS equation. Quickly let me take you through it. AS equal to AD, this is the equilibrium of the goods market. Then we expanded to a 3-sector model. We ignored the foreign sector, C plus I plus G. Then we opened the C curve and the I curve. C is C bar plus C by D, where YD is the disposable income. I gets changed to I bar minus Bi, which we have just discussed, that the ISNM analysis takes investment as a function of interest rate, decreasing function of interest rate. G bar is still being kept as constant. Then we open this YD We have opened this YB, then we have multiplied this C with every term here. Then we have taken all the Y terms on the left side, all the autonomous or the fixed terms here. All the fixed terms get converted into one variable as A bar. This is representing what? All of these autonomous terms, and we are left with A bar minus BI. Then we single out Y here, bring this in the coefficient, and we know that this is 1 upon 1 minus C plus CT is alpha G, or the government expenditure multiplier. So we replace 1 upon 1 minus C plus CT with alpha G here in both the terms. After doing that, we single out BI, we bring BI onto the left side, and then we want only the I here to bring it into the IS equational form. After doing that, we use the slope formula to find the slope of IS, and this is my slope of IS. Now we will be discussing the slope of the IS curve and how it is impacted. We just derived the AS curve and saw what will be the slope. So our slope came out to be minus 1 by B into alpha G. Whereas minus sign is showing what? Only the inverse relationship between the interest rate and investment. So the next two factors are B and alpha G, B and alpha G. Now if they will be large or small, what will be the impact of slope of IS? That is what we are studying. So if B is small, that means when the interest rate will change, the impact on investment will be smaller, not larger. That is the responsiveness. B shows the responsiveness of investment to the interest rate. So if B is small and when interest rate falls, the investment will change only small. But if B is large and the interest rate falls, change in investment will be large. This triangle is the delta sign which shows change. Small triangle here for my explanation, small triangle means small change, large triangle means large change. So if B is large and when the interest falls, the investment change will be large. Now when I is small, you remember AD is equal to C plus I plus G, and then it shifted upwards. So if change in I is small, then there will be small change. If there is large, then this will be the new AD, this will be AD1. In this case, this will be AD2 in this case. So investment change will be large, which leads to a larger change or a smaller change in AD. Then if this is larger, you see this is the AS curve. So now, this is income. The first case, if I go from here to here, this is my original equilibrium. This is my new equilibrium E1, this is the next equilibrium E2. If there is smaller change, then this will be the new E2. You see that we go only from Y1 to Y2. So small change in income. If we go from here to here, you see a very large change, Y3, large change in income. So in this case, IS is steeper, in this case, IS will be flatter. So I'll just show using this case also. So if it moves here, you remember that IS was just brought down here. If there is a small change, IS will be steeper. If there is a large change, say from here to here, IS will be flatter. Okay. So now let's discuss the impact of alpha G or the government multiplier. Now if government multiplier is small or large, in that case what will happen? Now again I am going to take a diagram to explain this. Again, I am going back to that derivation diagram only. I will be drawing two different cases on the same planes for you. Here we have AS as original. Now, I will make two ADs. This AD, AD1, AD2. Bring these down. This is with I1. This is with the increased I2. Here we have I1, I2, interest rate 1 and interest rate 2. So when I bring down these points, you see this is the IS curve that I got. Now I am not going to move this IS curve, I am going to just change my ADs now to show you. This is with alpha G1, this is the first government multiplier. Now if I change my ADs, suppose my ADs now become like this. I make them much steeper, can you see? Now the first point of intersection I have deliberately kept the same for your understanding. Now if this is the next, now I have to bring it parallel to this only. This is the point that I am getting. Now if I join these 2 points, so this was IS1 If I join these 2 points, this is IS2. Can you see when my ADs are steeper? When my ADs are steeper, this is AD1, AD2. When my AD is steeper, now what does a steeper AD show? That alpha G must be large, right? In that case, what can you see? When ADs are steeper, the IS is flatter. IS is flatter. That's what I've written. When alpha G is large, IS is flatter. And in the previous case, what did you see? When AD was a little flatter, that means alpha G was small, less change. Then IS is steep. So these are the impact of the 2 main factors involved in the IS curve slope, B and alpha G. When B, we saw the impact. With alpha G, we saw the impact. When they will be larger and smaller. So you have to show all these changes using these derivational diagrams. Okay, so we now discuss the money market. You remember we are talking about the IS-LM analysis, where IS was the goods market, LM is the money market. So we are now discussing the money market. The money market, let's first discuss the demand for money. Money demand or demand for money or demand for real balances, all mean the same thing. The equation given by economists for money demand is KY minus HI. Now what is KY? KY is the transaction demand. Now what is transaction demand? जो आप डेली बेसिस पे एक्सपेंडिचर करते हो और उसके लिए जो कैश होल्ड करते हो उसको कहते हैं आपकी ट्रांजैक्शन डिमांड. मनी यूज्ड फॉर डे टू डे एक्सपेंसेस एंड ट्रांजैक्शंस इज कॉल्ड ट्रांजैक्शन डिमांड. सो यू do not hold all of your money for transaction. You only hold a part of that your income in your hand for transaction and rest is stored away. So transaction demand. So K is the proportion of income by income that I am holding for transactional purposes. So K lies between 0 and 1. अब इस 1 में से कुछ K तो आपने यूज कर लिया ट्रांजैक्शन के लिए, जो बचा वो क्या? So 1 minus K into Y is my residual income, the money that I hold or that I invest. ठीक है, आपने इनकम अर्न करी, उसका कुछ पोर्शन आप ट्रांजैक्शन के लिए रखते हो, बाकी को आप क्या करते हो? कुछ स्पेकुलेशन में लगाते हो और कुछ आप फर्दर इनकम जनरेट करने के लिए लगाते हो. अब फर्दर इनकम जनरेट करने की यहाँ पे सिंप्लिसिटी लेने के लिए, नाउ all the residual income is kept to generate more money. Now for simplicity, we are assuming that this residual income, all of it or the greater proportion of it is converted into interest bearing bonds. हम ये मान के चल रहे हैं कि जो पैसा आपके पास बचा ट्रांजैक्शन डिमांड के बाद उसको सारे को आप कन्वर्ट कर रहे हो इंटरेस्ट बियरिंग बॉन्ड्स फॉर सिंप्लिसिटी. Second perspective is the speculative demand. The second reason why would you demand money is for speculative purposes. Speculative demand. अब speculation क्या है? जो आप anticipate करते हो और profit create करने की कोशिश करते हो, that is speculative demand. So it depends upon the interest rate. अगर rate of interest ज़्यादा हो जाएगा तो आपकी money demand कम हो जाएगी. Again, because this is acting as a cost of investment, so there is an inverse relationship. It is the proportion of money which is not converted into bonds. So ये ट्रांजैक्शन डिमांड के बाद जो आपने बॉन्ड्स में क्रिएट करा, ये वो हिस्सा है जिसको आपने बॉन्ड्स में क्रिएट नहीं करा. और H क्या दिखा रहा है? H शो कर रहा है सेंसिटिविटी ऑफ मनी डिमांड टुवर्ड्स द चेंज इन इंटरेस्ट रेट. Sensitivity of speculative demand to changes in the interest rate. So now let's draw the curve for money demand. If I have money demand on the x-axis and interest rate on the y-axis, because there is an inverse relationship, money demand will be a downward sloping curve. जब इंटरेस्ट रेट ज़्यादा होगा तो मनी डिमांड कम होगी. जब इंटरेस्ट रेट कम हो जाएगा I1 और I2, जब इंटरेस्ट रेट कम हो जाएगा तो मनी डिमांड बढ़ जाएगी. राइट? नाउ लेट अस ड्रॉ द स्लोप ऑफ दिस कर्व. इसकी स्लोप निकालते हैं. Here let's see, MD is equal to KY minus HI. I hope by now you are able to recall that equation. Y is equal to mx plus c, जो मैं आपको बार बार सिखा रही हूँ for drawing, for converting this equation in this form and then you find the m and that is your slope, as simple as that. So हमारे पास यहाँ y पे क्या है? md and sorry x axis पे md और y पे I. So सबसे पहले हम क्या करेंगे? We will separate out this I. This is HI equal to KY minus MD. I, if we have to singular it out, it becomes KY by H minus MD by H. Okay. Now what is the X here? X is MD, right? X is MD. So MD का intercept क्या है? It is minus 1 by H. So minus 1 by H is the slope of money demand. Now let us discuss the slope of MD curve. Slope of MD curve, like we just derived, is minus 1 by H. Now we know that the MD, where minus sign is showing an inverse relationship between the two variables, that is money demand and the interest rate. Because there is an inverse relationship, we know that the curve will be a downward sloping curve. Now whether the curve will be a steeper curve or flatter curve depends upon the slope of that curve. What is the slope? This is the slope, minus 1 by H. So the factor responsible is H, which is the responsiveness of the demand to the interest rate. So now let me take two curves. I have drawn a steeper curve, a flatter curve, and now I am drawing a more steeper curve. Let me call this flatter curve as MD1 and the steeper curve as MD2. Now I have two curves here, MD1 and MD2. Let this be my starting point with I 0 and MD 0. Now let's suppose the interest rate falls to I1. When the interest rate falls, we can see the impact on both the curves. Here we have MD2, so this is MD2 and this is MD1. So can you see that the impact is smaller on which one? MD2, which is the steeper curve, lesser impact, and on the flatter curve there is more impact. So when there is less responsiveness, when H is less responsive, the curve is steeper. So when H is small, the curve is steeper. When H is large, the curve is flatter. When there is greater responsiveness, that means the curve is flatter. So that is how the slope affects the MD curve. Now let us discuss the shifting in the MD curve. The MD curve shifts when the autonomous component changes. It is, that is, due to the change in level of income. KY minus HI. H was the responsiveness, I was the interest rate. So Y is the autonomous component, which is income. So when Y changes, then my MD curve shifts. Let this be the initial curve with initial interest rate and the initial money demand. When Y changes or increases, the curve shifts right. So this is what? This is delta Y. K into delta. This is the change. This becomes MD1. So MD curve shifts from MD1 to MD2 due to a change in the autonomous component, which is Y. So K into delta Y is this amount of change that has taken place. After having discussed the money demand component of the money market, we now move to money supply. What is money supply? Or supply of real balances. It is determined by nominal money supply of money. That means which is given directly by RBI. Nominal money supply then becomes currency plus bank deposits. So M is the nominal money supply. If I divide it by P, which is price level, I get real money supply. I hope you know the difference between nominal and real variables. Whenever we have made it for comparison or divided by an index, it becomes real. So M is the nominal money supply, which is given to me by RBI, and thus we assume it to be constant, and M by P is the real money supply. Now since M by P is the real money supply and we assume it to be constant, so money supply curve is a vertical line because it is constant. At any given interest rate, money supply cannot be increased because it is assumed to be fixed in the economy as given by the RBI. Now we have got the money supply curve and we already have the money demand curve. So let us discuss the equilibrium in the money market. How will we get the equilibrium? When demand and supply is equated. You already know the money demand curve and now we have the money supply curve. Where they equate, we get the equilibrium level of interest rate and the money, quantity of money in the economy. This is my equilibrium level. Now, what will happen if either money demand or money supply will change? What will happen in that case? Let us look at the two cases. Case 1. Here I have interest rate and here I have money demand and money supply. So let us first draw a starting point or a equilibrium situation, money demand, money supply. Now suppose there is change in money demand due to increase in income. You remember we did shifting in money demand where money demand curve shift rightward due to change in income. So if that happens and money demand curve shifts rightward parallelly, money demand curve shifts parallelly, what happens? We see that the interest rate goes up from I1 to I2. Why is this happening? Because money supply is not changing, only money demand is shifting upwards. So interest rate is rising in this case when there is change in money demand due to change in income. Second case. Now suppose there is a change in money supply. No, because nominal money, M was, what is M? It is nominal money supply. If nominal money supply is increasing in the economy, suppose RBI is taking some actions and it is increasing the money supply in the economy, the MS curve shifts rightward. In this case, can you see what happens? First, this is the interest rate, and when this shifts, money demand is constant or if the function remains the same. In that case, the interest rate falls. The interest rate falls. So now we have seen the effects of change in interest rate in an equilibrium situation of the money. Now let's derive the LM curve. LM is the combination of interest rate and income where money market is in equilibrium. So we are assuming that it is a combination between interest rate and income at all those points where the money market is already in equilibrium. मनी मार्केट इक्विलिब्रियम में कहाँ होगा? जहाँ पर मनी सप्लाई मनी डिमांड के बराबर होगा. मनी मार्केट will be in equilibrium where money supply is equal to money demand. We know money supply is N by P. Money demand is KY minus HI. I know I want the equation in the form of I and Y. So I take out I. This becomes HI equal to KY minus N by P. I is equal to So again this becomes my LM equation. But now what I want my slope of LM. Again I am using y is equal to mx plus c. Now what y is this only? X का coefficient m. X का coefficient, x is y का coefficient, k by h. So this is my slope. Now let's take it up graphically. Here I have the initial situation, money demand, money supply are in equilibrium at point E with interest rate I, and this is my supply of money or the equilibrium level. This money demand must be at some level of income. So let us suppose that this is that level of income and I bring this forward like this. Okay. Now let us suppose that money demand shifts upward. You remember we discussed case 1 where money demand shifts upward due to a change in income. So let us say that the income has increased. Income has increased to say Y2, and because of that money demand shifts upward to MD1 with this increased income. Here what you see, the interest rate has risen. Let's see this interest rate with this increased income. What we get this point. If I join these 2 points, I get my LM curve. So this is my LM curve. I have graphically also derived it. And the slope of LM curve is K by H. Now let me discuss whether this LM curve will be steeper or flatter, or the slope of this LM curve is dependent upon 2 factors, K and H. What is K? It is the responsiveness of money demand to income. You know, KY minus HI, KY. So K is the responsiveness of money demand to income, and minus HI. H is the responsiveness of money demand to interest rate. So to better understand it, what you can do, you can take two LM curves. Take one like this and take one like this, say LM1 and LM2. Using these two curves, take one initial interest rate, you can check the change in interest rates and check the change in income levels, and then you will be able to check whether they are steeper or flatter. For your simplification, I have taken here when K is small and when K is large. When K is small, LM will be flatter, and when K is large, LM will be steeper. When H is small, LM will be steeper, and when H is large, LM will be flatter. Can be checked by taking one flat and one steeper LM curves. Taking the slope of LM curve one step further, we will discuss two extreme cases. हमने बोला था कि जब K small होगा, then LM will be flatter. When K is small, LM will be flatter. Now assume that K has become 0, then LM will become horizontal. On the other hand, we have discussed when H is large, LM will be flatter. जब H बड़ा होगा तो LM flatter होगा. अगर H infinity पे चला जाए, then again LM will become horizontal. The second scenario, when we talk about when K is large, steeper होते होते vertical हो जाए. So if K is large, LM is steeper, but if K increases to infinity, LM will become vertical. We can check it on the other hand also. When H is small, LM is steeper, right? H जब छोटा है तो LM steeper होगा. Now H has become 0, LM will become vertical. You can see K by H in this case is infinity and K by H in this case is 0. So when the slope is 0, LM is horizontal. When the slope is infinity, the LM curve is vertical. Now let's take the shifts in the LM curve. If nominal money supply increases, so let me start with the equilibrium situation in the money market. This is my money demand, this is my money supply, this is my interest rate here, and this is of course at some level of income. This money demand is say at Y1, so I am going to take and draw this point like this. Alright. Now suppose I have a LM curve already passing through it. This is my LM1. Okay, my LM curve is already passing through it. Now what happens is, if the nominal money supply increases, if I increase the nominal money supply, say to MS1. Now if one nominal money supply increases, the equilibrium has shifted to this point such that the interest rate has fallen to I2. Now when I see that the interest rate has fallen, but can you see one important thing, that money demand remains the same. That means my level of income is still the same. Only what has happened, the interest rate has fallen. Interest rate fall करा है, लेकिन income का level change नहीं हुआ है, because income का level मेरे money demand पर depend करता है, जो अभी भी same है. Change इसमें आया है money supply में, जिसकी वजह से interest rate गिरा. So interest rate गिरने से क्या होगा? This will be my new LM. Now let's read this together. If nominal money supply increases with constant prices, the LM curve shifts rightward and downward. Can you see it has moved rightward and downward? So this is the shift in the LM curve. Now after having completely understood the money market by money demand, money supply, equating them and finding out the LM curve, we now come to the final part, which is the equilibrium in the goods and money market, or our analysis, ISLM analysis. This is your IS equation. Now both of these curves, you must have noticed, are a combination of I and Y. Even IS was a combination of I and Y, and LM is also a combination of I and Y. This is my IS curve, this is my LM curve. Where these both interact, I get equilibrium level of income and interest rate, such that in this point at E, both the goods market and money market are simultaneously in equilibrium. Also, what does IS show? All combinations of income and interest rate where the goods market is in equilibrium. Already at all these points the goods market is in equilibrium. Okay, that is what IS is showing. What is LM showing? All points of combination between interest rate and income where the money market was in equilibrium. तो IS क्या शो कर रहा है? हर वो जगह जहाँ गुड्स मार्केट इक्विलिब्रियम पर है. LM क्या शो कर रहा है? हर वो जगह जहाँ मनी मार्केट इक्विलिब्रियम पर है. इन दोनों का इंटरसेक्शन मतलब पॉइंट E क्या शो कर रहा है? At that point E, it is a combination of interest rate and income such that both the money market and the good market are simultaneously. इस पॉइंट पर गुड्स मार्केट भी इक्विलिब्रियम पर है, मनी मार्केट भी इक्विलिब्रियम. अब हम एक स्पेशल केस लेते हैं, इंक्रीज इन ऑटोनॉमस इन्वेस्टमेंट, या फिर हम यहाँ पर देखना चाह रहे हैं कि इस केस में इंक्रीज या डिक्रीज कब हो सकता है. जैसे मान लीजिए हमने केस लिया है कि हमारे ऑटोनॉमस इन्वेस्टमेंट में इंक्रीज हुआ, इंक्रीज इन ऑटोनॉमस इन्वेस्टमेंट. अब ऑटोनॉमस कंपोनेंट में जब चेंज होगा, आपको याद है जब हमने IS डिराइव करा था, सो ऑल द ऑटोनॉमस कंपोनेंट वाज कंप्राइज्ड इन दिस A bar. So when I bar increases, it leads to an increase in A bar, which leads to shifting of IS rightwards. Now IS shift rightward to IS1. इससे क्या हो रहा है? There is change or increase in income and interest rate in the economy. So this is how we will further study the changes in interest rate and changes in income or shifting of IS and income. With this unit, this is it.